So I got home with Stephen and Aiden. Stephen puts him in the crib and I begin to pump. I pump, and I get like a quarter of a bottle. I kiss Stephen goodbye and leave him with the bottle. To say, we didn't, we did the classes together. We're going to figure this out because neither of us know what we're doing. Mothers and fathers, when you become a mother and father, there's no automatic download of encyclopedic knowledge as a mother as to how to mother. You learn as you go along, right? As do fathers. So at a point in time, I knew nothing more than he knew as far as that's concerned, but I had breast milk. So gave him the breast milk and I went in the car, went to my shower. And let me tell you, it was the most beautiful experiences to be surrounded by women who would just love me and celebrate me and tell me stories of my mother. So she could be there with me at that time. My girlfriends from high school who were still my best friends, creating a space for me, nurturing me, giving me lots of water so I could hydrate, just lifting me up, And that's why I say co-parenting, the other part of today's episode, is important because if Stephen wasn't brave enough to take this on, right? Because it took some courage. This is not the norm to have being left with a baby by a new mother. But he took it on and he gave me that space. Welcome to my podcast and YouTube show, Imani Seh Suh. I'm Imani, a Jamaican woman. And in Jamaica, Seh Suh means say so. So this is about my views, my perspectives on a range of topics, which I hope you'll find interesting and inspiring for change, because I am passionate about change. I'm a social and economic justice advocate. I was a former senator in Jamaica. I've also headed strategy for Caribbean Financial Services Group, did lots of M&A. I'm a feminist with a passion for gender equality, and I'm a social entrepreneur with a focus now on developing affordable, dignified housing. I was also a young global leader with the World Economic Forum. And in all of this, yoga brings me peace and grounds me in my crazy, full life. I'm a wife and a mother of 3 amazing children, 12, 10, and almost 8. And in my podcast and YouTube series, I'll be sharing perspectives on a whole range of topics as I hope we can live life fuller. We can understand more global trends and what they mean for us in developing countries, in the Caribbean, and across the world. We'll have stories that will inspire us, yes, you and me, so we can push to make a difference wherever we are, so we can have more grace with ourselves, just being kinder to ourselves. Stories to motivate us to love a little harder. In Imani Seh Suh, sometimes I'll be solo, like today. Sometimes I'll interview incredible guests here in Jamaica and that I've met in my journeys across the world. At the end of it all, I hope to nurture hope and a sense of possibility to action in me and in you. After all, I believe our world can use more of that to make it better. Today's episode is about serendipity, unpredictability, and the importance of co-parenting in making us better mothers. It's about my personal story as we celebrate Mother's Day. Imagine it's early July 2010 and my own mother, she was very sick at that point in time. We didn't know what it was. It turned out to be stage 4 cancer. And I had taken her to the doctor and I was in complete distress as a daughter, just what to do, how to help, how to survive the loss of my mother. And we're at the doctor's office, which is like a medical center, and I'm in distress, and this man comes out with a round face, smiling, and says hello to me, and says his name is Dr. Michael Abrahams. He was not my mother's doctor. She was seeing her doctor while I was there. And he was just a great guy. He's actually a comedian, which I didn't know at the time, and a gynecologist and obstetrician. So I said to him, I didn't need his help at the time because I was not pregnant. But he said, well, call me though when you need me, and just to be strong and keep the faith. He moved my soul, and that was serendipitous because lo and behold, a week later, when recognizing that I had missed my period for a little while, we took a pregnancy test. That's Stephen and myself, my partner, and we were pregnant. I had Michael's number, so we called him. And it was, when you find out you're pregnant, it's scary and amazing all these things all wrapped up in one. But thank God I had a great partner in Stephen who was as scared and as excited as I was. So there we are with Michael, Dr. Abrahams, who I said to you, remember, he's also a comedian. That's his side hustle, right? As a social commentator. We're in there with Michael, and he says, great news, things are looking good. And your due date, I swore he said due date, was March 11th, which we said, wow, how serendipitous. That is Stephen's brother's birthday. Our child, was about the time, will be born on Stephen's brother's birthday. And so we go along with March 11th. And I'm telling you this story because as either if you're pregnant or when you have a baby at some point in time, this is very important to know because I made a little mistake. So, as I said before, I was a vice president at the time of a big company across the Caribbean. So I was like project mode. I'm having a baby in a few months' time, March 11th. So I had meetings scheduled up until March 10th, right? Because I believed in the science of babies coming, apparently. I did not realize that it's an estimated due date. It's called EDD for a reason. The E is estimated. I somehow didn't hear that. So going along with my workaholic self, and up until close to the date, things are happening. And on February 25th, which happens to be Stephen's birthday, Stephen is my partner, father of my child. After us taking different classes together, Stephen sleeping through half the classes, but we feel like we're getting ready, right? And I am down to the wire. My bag is packed, but the room for the baby is not ready, but we're going to get there because of 2 more weeks, yeah? So it's February 25th. And we go to my great-grand-aunt, my grand-aunt's funeral that day. And I'm feeling our baby, who we now know is a boy, and he's going to be named Aiden. So I'm feeling Aiden kind of, putting pressure in my uterus. But I said, oh, he's getting ready for 2 weeks' time. Because remember now, it's March 11th that we're having this baby, right? Okay. And the day proceeds, and I'm having surges. We don't call them contractions in what I did for my birth. This is called hypnobirthing. We call them surges because you ride the waves of the surge and you breathe into it. You don't contract because contracting is the opposite of releasing your baby. But that's different story, different time. So going through the day and saying, oh, this is normal. My body's getting ready for 2 weeks' time. I even drive out to Dovecot, which is a funeral cemetery, basically, way outside of Kingston. And I'm having surges, but I'm breathing them through, saying, oh, this is so interesting. It happens when I come back. I'm like, these surges are kind of closer, in space. And I call Michael. Michael says, oh, come by and just, have a check-in. By the way, I'm also planning Stephen's Lyme for his birthday that night. Go to Michael, breathing it through. Michael says, Imani, you're 8 centimeters dilated. Get to the hospital. You should got 10 to have a baby, by the way, 10 centimeters. I was like, what? So I was in quote unquote labor. Stephen comes by with a whole pan of like beer and liquor in his car, ready to go have a Lyme later. I was like, no Lyme, hospital time. We get to the hospital, and I was thinking to myself on the way, like, how serendipitous that while it was that my mother was literally dying, I was having life growing inside of me. And my mommy actually passed away while I was pregnant with Aiden. It was one of the saddest times in my life because a mother is the one who guides it to this next level of the journey of life. But I felt like she gave me gifts, the gifts of Michael, the gifts of my godmother. There were so many things that happened in that period that were gifts from her, I believe, in heaven. That was serendipity. The unpredictability was that I didn't listen to the date. And so Aiden was coming on not Stephen's brother's birthday, but Stephen's birthday itself. And thank goodness it was a fabulous birth. We had a doula, so it could be a natural birth, and I breathed through it, and it was beautiful, and I had energy, and my father was there, and my mother's picture was there. Stephen brought mommy's picture, and we had Aiden. But this is the other part now about planning. Remember, because it was March 11th, my girlfriends and I, who were new mothers too, they believed my date about March 11th, and so my baby shower was going to be on February 27th. That's a Sunday after the Friday that Aiden was born. My friends called me that night and said, great, so happy for you. So we'll just drop the gifts off at the house, right? Because obviously there's no shower. I'm like, no. I'm leaving the hospital. We're having a shower. And they said, okay, Imani, you're very determined. I said, no, man. And I said, but who will take care of Aiden, like while you're at the shower? He's a newborn. I said, Stephen, he was there when I made Aiden. We made him together, and we're going to raise him together. They were a little shocked, but they know I'm unconventional, and I believe in equality in partnership, in parenting, in life. And so we got home from the hospital, and I went for new mothers. When you have a baby, you don't just like have lots of breast milk at one time, like manna from heaven. Yeah, you actually take a while to produce, and you first have a thing called colostrum, which is a very thick kind of liquid, great for antibodies, nutrients, antioxidants to build a baby's immune system. But small babies, newborn babies, don't eat a lot in the beginning. So I got home with Stephen and Aiden. Stephen puts him in the crib, and I begin to pump, and I get like a quarter of a bottle. I kiss Stephen goodbye and leave him with the bottle. To say, we didn't, we did the classes together. We're gonna figure this out because neither of us know what we're doing. Mothers and fathers, when you become a mother and father, there's no automatic download of encyclopedic knowledge as a mother as to how to mother. You learn as you go along, right? As do fathers. So at a point in time, I knew nothing more than he knew as far as that's concerned, but I had breast milk. So gave him the breast milk, and I went in the car, went to my shower. And I'm gonna tell you, it was the most beautiful experiences to be surrounded by women who just love me and celebrate me and tell me stories of my mother, so she could be there with me at that time. My girlfriends from high school who were still my best friends, creating a space for me, nurturing me, giving me lots of water so I could hydrate, just lifting me up, And that's why I say co-parenting, the other part of today's episode, is important, because if Stephen wasn't brave enough to take this on, right? Because it took some courage. This is not the norm to have being left with a baby by a new mother. But he took it on, and he gave me that space so that I could actually begin this journey whole, And I'm grateful. So in the process that night, your body, my breast started getting full again. Nature works that way. It tells you when the time is there. So I was like, I have to go now, ladies. Thank you so much. And I must tell you, incidentally, that while I was at the shower, every older auntie that I had, when they asked, where is Aiden? What's happening? I was like, well, Stephen has him. They looked at me with such skepticism and worry about this child. And I said, remember that Aiden is Stephen's son, and he will lay down his life for him. I'm very clear on that. No doubt. He's okay. And he was. When I walked in, the milk had just finished. There was a look of calm panic on his face, but kudos to Duncan-Price. He stood as a daddy, and he built that confidence in that entire afternoon to know that he is as equal a parent to Aiden as I am to him, Aiden. And that's how we've lived for the last 12 years as partners in parenting. And I put it to you that the unpredictability of that whole process, you can't control it. It's the same way with children. You can't control what they do. You have to just go with the flow and be ready for it as it comes. But it makes the ride easier when you have a partner who's a co-parent. But we have to give space to our fathers, to the men in our lives, to be active fathers. Don't just take on everything yourself. That's too much stress. Create the space for them to be active fathers, and they will show up. Trust them. They'll love them picnic as children. They'll love them. And if you don't have a father living with you as a partner, but as a father in your child's life, allow them to be active in your child's life, because a child needs both parents to be grounded, to be solid, to be connected. But it means you have to make the space for it to happen. And if for some reason you don't have a father at all in your child's life, then your village, your tribe, your community, your mother, your aunties, your friends are your co-parents. And don't do it alone. I think sometimes we become so angry with our children and impatient because we're just tired as mothers. We do a lot. We balance a lot. But we don't have to do it alone. And so my gift to you on this Mother's Day is, it's a big up to all the mothers out there. I mean, you are champions in no uncertain terms, but you don't have to be champions alone. You're on a team. Celebrate the team and allow the team to help you so you can be better mothers. Thank you for joining me today for Imani Seh Suh. Please share your experiences and thoughts on being a mother, experiences with your tribe, on co-parenting in the comment section below. We're building a community here, so any questions you have or advice that you have, please share it so we can learn from each other. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on Imani Seh Suh.